Kenny, last night, I'm not going to go over all ground, but you were talking about the Bournemouth players complaining about the referee, complaining to them about the fact that they were complaining, right? So this was...
This is a non-story, Jerry. Are you going to run with? Are you really going to run with this?
Well, no, because...
You're going to say... Right, go on then.
You got to trust us here, right?
Okay.
Kieran has a story about referees, so this is just a setup, Kenny, an elaborate setup. But hang on a second, right? So the Bournemouth players are bitching at the referee, going,
allegedly,
you're making all these shitty decisions, that's why we're in the relegation zone. And he goes, no, you're in the relegation zone because you're not playing very well. It's your responsibility, right? Calmly, he says that. That's what seems to have happened.
Yeah, so you put a bit of meat on the bone.
Oh, I can't believe that the referee is saying this to us. You're like, hang on a second here now. This is one of the worst things I've ever heard any professional footballer bitch and whine and moan about, right?
Oh, I agree with you. I thought you were going to take the opposite approach, Jay. No, I agree with you 100%. I was embarrassed, to be honest with you, when I heard it was pitched at me last night. I hadn't heard of it. I don't know what else to say. It was so weak. For me, it was a window. It was a bit of a window, Kieran, in terms of the dressing room, that Bournemouth dressing room at the moment, and the management team as well. Yep. If they're trying to kind of use this to kind of rally the troops behind something, like, you know what I mean? And it seems almost an act of desperation. I'd be actually worried, somebody around the football club as a support, reading this, thinking, listen, lads, is this it? We're really clutching if this is all we've got.
Were you one for bitching at referees?
No, I said it last night. I don't remember. No, genuinely, I wasn't. No.
Did you have conversations with them? Would you be like an arm on the shoulder here? Ref, come on now, look.
I wasn't even one for involving myself too much with
your man's very fast. It's not fair. What am I supposed to do?
There's plenty of those conversations.
When you're at the bottom, though, you can feel like when you're so desperate for everything to go your way, you can feel like that everybody's against this, or you're nil with a big club and they get a penalty and it was kind of soft, and you're like, we need that at the other end, not them. And does that build up over games to where it gets to the point where players are like...
Yeah, but it generally just manifests itself in a little kind of mini explosion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, come on,
that's fine, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Well,
that's as a one-off. But then to go to the press afterwards and go, this guy was giving out to us about, come on.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
It's weak.
And referees, you know, we're constantly bemoaning the fact referees like very robotic in their approach. This has traditionally always been the case. You know what I mean? They're distant. They don't want to know players. They don't want to know. They think they're holier than thou. They're better than us. You can't approach them. You can't even talk to them. They're not human beings. They're aliens. They're not one of us. And then when a referee actually turns around and actually engages with players, albeit in a slightly sarcastic, humorous way, then suddenly it's kind of thrown back at them. And you can bet your bottom dollar Mike Riley be sitting down with John Moss over the next couple of days saying, John, look, you've got to... John, you've left yourself a little bit open here, and which is a shame, because for me, like, that's not that kind of dialogue's not a bad thing. And, like, you know, professional athletes, like, you know, we're men here, like, you know what I mean, to be screaming about that. And I hate that kind of, was it Dan Gosling, was it, or who was quoted? He said, John Moss said to me, I mean, what gets said on the football pitch should say, it can't be like quoting referees. Even managed to go to the referee's room. I went in there and he said, and I think when you're betraying the confidence there, like, you know, if the referee takes you into his confidence and actually opens up and offers you an opinion, you know, if you immediately to walk outside and share that with the press outside, and I think it's poor.
And all those swear words that you used at me when you were like calling me every name under the sun, like that's what the referees say back to him. Would you talk to referees in both sports, in basketball and in?
Yeah, no, I would be normally kind of calm enough in my approach, but there is obviously times where frustration unfortunately boils over and you do kind of, you know, but...
what was the point of talking to them? What were you trying to do?
Oh, you're just trying to maybe kind of get them to watch for something, you know, especially if you're an inside forward, you're very far away. And look, I know we probably talked about umpires already now during early on in the week, but if you feel that they are not watching or whatever, you know, you're trying to get a ref that's 60 yards away to kind of be keeping an eye out at jersey pulling or whatever stops you making a run. So yeah, you'd go about it that way, and then you might get to the point where they just boil over and you're after getting horsed around a few times. But you know, there was a basketball ref when we were in a poor run with the Tigers back in the day, like, and like that, like, you know, I had a bit of a go off him, like, you know. And he said, shut up, Kieran, you're just not good enough. You know, and I kind of got a laugh out of it. And, you know, I didn't at the time. Like, at the time, I said, what do you mean? He's like, you're just not good enough. You're not good enough. And then I was kind of looking around going, I went back and put my knees on my shorts at the free throw line and I was like, Jesus Christ, he's fucking right. You know, we're not good enough at the moment. So,
back from that.
you know, but like that bit of, you know, and Pat McEnany was always great that way. Like, you know, he'd tell you, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up, Kieran. And you'd be kind of like, yeah, I should shut up. You know, I had my go off him. But you could always, you're on about that approaching referee. That's all you want, is to be able to approach him. And I don't mind if someone tells me to be quiet or shut up. I'd actually prefer shut up than kind of a smart aleck. I'm not listening to you, Kieran, or something kind of polite. I prefer the kind of, or the ignoring is where is the worst. And that's what I love in the rugby. And I love when I'm watching Aussie Rules is the conversation, the respect.
The Aussie Rules are the same.
Unbelievable.
All right.
Oh, yeah,
I assumed Aussie Rules would be like
no,
effing and jeffing.
No, there's no effing. They're mic'd up.
Right.
The refs are mic'd up, and there's huge.
Mic'd up cures the swearing.
It
straight away.
100% does, and it puts onus on the referee to communicate that bit better. You remember that documentary that came out that time on
it was you were playing the final, yeah.
Yeah, the final against Dublin, and it was great because the level of communication, you know, I felt was up even higher than normal, maybe, because he might have known that was going on. But I think if they knew all the time, and the players knew, it'd be brilliant for the game, because, you know, I think the behaviour out of the Premiership guys is shocking, the way they speak to refs and and you can see the language flying out of them, and they get away with it.
But there's language and there's
we don't get away with that, which is rightly so, because you don't want I don't want my daughter or young fella in time looking at players absolutely cursing the life out of a referee. But I would love the over and back.
Yeah, I don't mind the industrial language. I don't name call them when it veers into you're a this or a that. Fair enough, but in terms of just general industrial language, as we term it, I've no problem with that. That's kind of a natural thing, to be honest with you, any kind of working environment. So I've no real problem with that. The kind of players I have, you see a lot of it now in the rugby. I think is quite topical. I heard a bit of conversation about Johnny Sexton the weekend in terms of like how vocal he is with referees, when it's a kind of almost like a calculated thing. And I can understand that with referees, just in terms of painting little pictures in their head early in the game. Look, ref, Greg, but you've got to watch out for him. Or in terms of maybe something the opposition team's doing, or just be mindful of that, will you, ref? It's happening. You're going to see more of it. So just painting little pictures for them, just nudging him in a certain direction, just making him aware of certain things. So that's not a bad thing in some respects. That's kind of quite clever, and that'll be almost a conscious approach. But I think there are some players, and there's a few players out there who just like Ashley Young was one of them. Thank God he's over in Inter Milan. He's got his move, because he used to drive me absolutely mad. Any decision on the pitch, he was literally whoosh, he's there. Now the players are there in the referee's ears. Any kind of melee, any kind of contentious decision, they're there. They're around it. They're in the middle of it, pushing people apart, having a dialogue with the referees. Like the armband thing, they feel as if superpowers. I've got to get in there and get myself involved. Ashley Young was probably the worst example of that. He used to drive me mad. At times, he's no business. Too much. If I was a referee, I'd be saying, actually, what are you doing here? You've no business. Just leave me alone. Almost annoying, becoming like a little bit annoying. You know what I mean? Like
I think if he was mic'd up, you'd see that over a game. Over 2 games, you'd realise this is a pattern. And game 3, the referee would come and say, the whole world knows what you're at. So
I don't think you could do it in
football.
In football.
I think
it's the way the as you said, this onslaught and F and there's people at home, like you can't.
That would die in week 3, because Wayne Rooney would go
but you're
home
going to have to go through 2 weeks of complaints into the TV, abuse and Fs and blinds.
At least we get an indication what players are actually saying when it looks as if they're playing that harmonica, doesn't it? Every time now, and it's like ridiculous stuff.
What would Ashley Young say? Did he have a go-to line or anything like that?
I don't know what he talks about, but just some. I think it's the captaincy thing a little bit, and you've probably had a little bit. I noticed that when you get the armband, right, more responsibility to a certain extent, but to kind of involve yourself all the time. You're talking 40 yards away, whoosh, got to get myself there. I've got to get in between people.
Did the armband have that magical effect on you when you got it?
No, not at all. Like I said, I never got used to get myself too involved in those type of things. I always felt as if maybe it was a bit of a conscious thing. I kind of leave the referee alone. Maybe on occasion, maybe there'd be a conversation, but it was never a shouting and screaming match. It might have been, ref, just be careful of that. That's the second time that. Are you on? Have you seen it? even a ref, if you've seen that, even if you didn't give the free kick, you saw that's all right. Yeah, exactly. You're all right. Fair enough.
Is it true, Kieran, that the Dubs have like the rule book memorised, so that if you overheard their conversation with a referee, it'd be like, "Excuse me, ref, that's infraction 2A, page 17 of the GAA rule book that you're." That's some of the stories that has gone through the rumor mill.
Is it true, Kieran, the Kerry Mafia has seized the airwaves once again here?
I think the Kerry Mafia infiltrated there.
Thank you.
It was actually a fellow Leinster coach. Who
Are you making this up as you go along?
Not making this up as you go along.
Is this a serious accusation you're making?
This is something that has actually been heard
by a fellow Leinster.
It's certainly not Kerry.
Don't take the bait here. Don't take the bait.
This is a true story. You're not just making this up. I thought you were joking.
No, I'm not joking. No,
this was one of your bits.
No, it's not.
No,
like obviously I over-egged it, but the way they speak to the referee is actually very calculated.
Oh yeah, they
don't get wound up. They don't say, "What the hell are you doing, ref?" It's like, actually, for what particular infraction did I get done for there? And that is some of the language that they tend to use towards the referee.
Yeah, I think they're brilliant in the way they deal with the ref. They're always respectful. They know when they know how far to push it. And you know, when I look back on the Kerry team in my early days, when we were successful, we were probably you could say that we weren't as good as they are at that. And I would say that was big into this whole culture and identity thing that they have. And
did that cost you in the Tyrone games then?
No, I wouldn't say cost us in Tyrone games. I wouldn't, but I definitely think the refs would have a better opinion if you have a ref that refed our era versus this current Dublin team. I would say that if you were a ref in both eras, they would say, who's the better team to ref? Yeah. I think they'd all say this Dublin team because, they just have... they are good in the way they speak with them, and it is important because it's don't forget it's human nature. We forget that these guys are very human, and if you're in the bank and you're trying to deal with somebody and some fella's roaring at you behind the counter to F off, you're not going to want to go back into him again. You're going to wait for the nice person to get you in the queue, and that's
almost like a subconscious thing, is it? That type of person, you're like, you'll naturally gravitate towards. Well, when you're not in terms, not an obvious thing in terms of your like decision making, but almost not knowing it yourself. And invariably late in the game, a couple of those 50 decisions will have to be made. And I think that's where the players are hoping that will kick in. You'll just, for some reason, subconsciously just side with one particular team over another, maybe for that reason that Kieran's talking about there.
There's new broadcast policies being devised by the GAA. That's part of the section of the Director General stuff yesterday. Should miking up referees be a part of the education of the entire country, and what would the players think about it, and should the GPA be in favour of it, do you think?
Oh yeah, I think it's a win-win all around. It's a win-win for the players. I think it's a win-win for the refs because people at home can understand what decisions they're making, and I think it's huge for the viewer. The viewer that's watching the game is now getting a completely inside look into what's happening on the pitch. Yeah. And there's massive onus, as you said, there's massive onus gets shared around for people to, speak to them the way the Johnny Sextons approach, the ref every week in the rugby, and people said he talked too much last week, and I heard it on the coverage of the game, but I thought Johnny was good last week. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was in at the right time, a right level of calmness, but he was assertive in what he was saying. And the biggest thing you said earlier on is that's exactly what you're doing, is marking his card for the next time. Yeah. You might have missed it there, but I'm telling you this is going on. And all that does is the next time there's that instance, he's looking now for that thing that's going on. Whereas if you come in roaring and shouting the head off him, which definitely. I'm guilty of at times, it doesn't get you anywhere.
7 4, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not convinced it'd work on the football pitch, so I've got to be honest with you. And I don't think necessarily a lot of referees would be in favour of it, having to publicly explain yourself in terms of the reasoning behind the decision that you've just got. I think actually that puts a huge amount more pressure on the shoulders, makes it even more self-conscious, I think, having to verbally explain all your decisions, not just to the players in front of you, but to the viewing public, everybody in the crowd, the millions of people watching. I think that invites a huge amount of pressure as well.
Most of the decisions are actually obvious. Most of them are like pull, I saw pull, I saw trip, clash, most of it, I think it's fairly obvious. I think over a period of time they would just get used to it. There'd be a generation who would find it difficult to referees, and the next generation would just be like, this is what happens. In every sport where it happens, it's worked really well. It works really well in American football, it works really well in rugby. It works really well to explain to people who are supporters, either paying to go to it or in many cases paying to watch it on TV, why they're seeing what they're seeing. I think I think we should trial it, Kenny. Would you go that far?
Yeah, just like VAR. How huge success we've had off the basis is trialing VAR.
They screwed up VAR doesn't mean they're going to screw this up, right?